"What does it feel like to be worth nothing anymore, Mom?" That was what Richard asked me. Standing in the doorway of the house I helped him buy. Vanessa was there, arms crossed, with that little smirk plastered on the corner of her mouth. The neighbor across the street stopped watering her plants to watch. The delivery guy stood frozen on the sidewalk, holding a package, unsure if he should approach. The wind kicked up dust against the gate. Vanessa checked her phone, as if this were just another normal day for her. I stood motionless, clutching my fabric tote bag, the same one I've carried for 15 years. My body locked up, but I didn't cry there. I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. You know that moment when you realize the son you raised doesn't exist anymore? That he has turned into someone else, and you are staring into the eyes of a stranger? It was right there. The down payment for that house came out of my pocket. His law school tuition, I was the one who paid for it. 1 week later, I returned to that same door. This time, I had a black leather folder tucked under my arm. His face lost all its color when I opened it and laid everything out on the table. But I had done something he never expected. I was widowed at 38. Richard was 12. I remember the funeral, him holding my hand, wearing that borrowed suit that was 2 sizes too big. I looked at my son on that gray day and made an unshakable decision. He was going to have a future. It didn't matter what I had to do to make it happen. I started sewing from home. From the early morning hours until late into the night. Alterations, hemming pants, prom dresses, school uniforms. Anything that came my way, I took it. My old sewing machine made so much noise the neighbor would bang on the wall. But I didn't stop. Richard studied at the kitchen table while I worked. Sometimes he fell asleep with his head on his notebook, and I would cover him with a sheet. The first sacrifice was my health. I spent years with back pain, cramps in my hands, tension in my neck. I never complained. There was no time for doctors. There were clients waiting, bills to pay, Richard's school tuition due. The second sacrifice was giving up on rebuilding my own life. There were men interested, yes, invitations to dinner, to go for a walk. But I always thought that dividing my attention would take something away from my son. So I chose him. Always him. The third sacrifice was my mother's house. The only thing she left me when she passed away. A simple little house, but it was mine. When Richard got into law school, the tuition was high. Very high. He looked at me with those shining eyes, saying it was his dream. I sold the house. I used every penny to pay for his 5 years of college. He graduated. I cried with pure pride at the commencement ceremony. We were close. Very close. He called me every day. He came to have lunch with me on weekends. He called me my queen. He said that when he had his own law firm, I would stop sewing and finally rest. I believed him. Then he met Vanessa. In the beginning, she was polite. She smiled when she saw me. She said, "Hi, Mrs. Martha," with a sweet voice. But there was something about the way she looked at his apartment, the simple furniture, and at me, as if she were appraising everything, calculating the value. They got married quickly. A small reception, because he said he wanted to save money to buy a house. I gave them money to help. It wasn't a fortune, but it was everything I had saved up in the bank. The first humiliation was subtle. So subtle that I even doubted myself. It happened on a Sunday. I had brought a homemade lemon pound cake, the one Richard had always loved since he was a boy. I rang the doorbell. Vanessa opened the door, but she didn't let me fully inside. She stood there, blocking the way with the door half closed. "Oh, Mrs. Martha, today isn't going to work. We're just about to head out." Richard appeared behind her in slippers, looking like he had just woken up. "Head out?" I asked. He looked away. "Yeah, Mom. Vanessa made plans." I stood there, holding the cake, feeling the hot sun beating down on my back. Vanessa smiled slightly. It wasn't a polite smile. It was the smile of someone who had just won something. "Just leave the cake there. We'll eat it later." I left it. I walked down the steps. I got on the bus, and on the way back, I started feeling a strange tightness in my chest. It wasn't anger yet. It was the feeling that something had changed. But I had hope. I still thought it would pass. That Richard would go back to being who he always was. I was wrong. 3 months after the wedding, they bought the house. A beautiful house, with a yard and a garage. Richard called me, excited. "Mom, we did it. Come see it on Saturday." I arrived with flowers. The house was gorgeous, but when I walked in, Vanessa greeted me with a list. "Mrs. Martha, here in our house we have a few little rules. Nothing major, just for organization." Little rules. She called them little rules. Shoes stay in the entryway. You can't open the fridge without asking. And if you're coming to visit, call ahead, because we aren't always available. Richard was standing right there. He didn't say a word. He just nodded, as if that were normal. I put away the flowers I brought. Nobody put them in a vase. They stayed on the table until I left. I started calling before going over. Always. I'd call 2 days in advance, ask if it was okay. Sometimes the answer was no. Sometimes they didn't even call me back. The second humiliation was worse. Years ago, I had given Richard his father's watch. It was the only thing left of George. A steel wristwatch with his name engraved on the back. He always wore it. Until he got married. One day, I went over there and saw the watch sitting on top of a cardboard box in the garage, amidst old junk and clutter. Richard, the watch? He didn't even look at it properly. "Oh, Mom, that thing hasn't worked in ages. Vanessa said it's just taking up space." "Taking up space?" Vanessa appeared at the kitchen door. "Mrs. Martha, we're doing a declutter, getting rid of old things. You understand, right?" I picked up the watch from the box. I wiped the dust off with my sleeve. Richard didn't ask for it back. I took it with me. I put it in a drawer, and I cried when I got home. It was around that time that Mikey was born, my first grandson. I thought everything would change. I thought having a grandson would bring us close again. But it was the opposite. I couldn't hold him without asking for permission. I couldn't feed him. I couldn't be alone with him, not even for 5 minutes. Vanessa always invented an excuse. "Oh, he's feeling a little sick, better not. He's on a sleep schedule, you understand. Today doesn't work, Mrs. Martha. Another day." Mikey's first birthday was at a party venue, a big event. I arrived early. I helped set up the tables, the decorations. Vanessa didn't even say thank you. When it was time for photos, I tried to get close to stand next to Richard and Mikey. Vanessa held my arm, gently, firmly. "This photo is just for the parents, Mrs. Martha. We'll take one with you later." Richard didn't say anything. He kept posing with Mikey in his arms and Vanessa by his side. The photo with Grandma was never taken. I sat alone on a chair in the corner. Several people looked at me. Vanessa's mother was there, laughing loudly, running the show. And I, who paid for the college education of that child's father, was invisible. That was when I realized. It wasn't just distancing, it was erasure. They were erasing me, slowly, politely, but they were doing it. And that was when I started to protect myself. I went back home and opened an old drawer. I took out all the receipts I had kept. Tuition deposit slips, proof of help for the wedding, bank transfers. I have always been organized. I always kept everything. I put it all in an old plastic folder. I didn't know yet what it would be for, but something inside me said, "Keep it, protect it. One day you will need it." And I was going to need it, more than I imagined, because Vanessa wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Richard called me on a Tuesday night. His voice was calm, too rehearsed. "Mom, I need to talk to you, in person. Can I come over tomorrow?" He could. With me, he always could. He came alone, without Vanessa, without Mikey. He sat at my table, the same one where he did his homework as a kid. "Mom, I have an opportunity, a big opportunity," he explained. "A partnership in a law firm, an investment. It would double his income, but he needed capital. $50,000. $50,000. I know it's a lot, Mom, but it's guaranteed. In 6 months, I'll pay you back everything, with interest." He had papers, a contract, even a profit projection. Everything looked nice, but I knew my son. I knew the way he looked away when he lied. I knew his accelerated breathing. I knew his tone of voice when he was hiding something. "Richard, I don't have 50,000 in my account." "I know, Mom, but you have the deed to your apartment. You can take out a loan using it as collateral." My apartment. The only place that was mine. The only thing left. I felt a tightness in my chest. It wasn't a request. It was emotional blackmail. "Mom, it's my career. It's Mikey's future. You always wanted me to grow, didn't you? Well, this is my chance." He knew how to press where it hurt. "And if I can't pay off the loan, I'll pay it, Mom. I'll sign everything. I'll pay you back right on time. He pushed the papers toward me. A loan agreement, a promissory note, a promise to pay in 6 months, all typed up. He had brought it ready. I signed. But before I did, I took a picture of every page. I kept a copy of everything. I noted the date, the time, even what he was wearing. I took the bank receipt when I made the transfer and printed 2 copies. One stayed with me. The other I stapled to the contract he signed. He left happy. He hugged me at the door. He said, "Thanks, Mom. You'll see. It's going to be worth it." 6 months passed. Not a cent came back. I called. He wouldn't answer. I sent text messages, short replies. "Mom, it's complicated. Give me a little more time." Another month, another one. Nothing. Until one Sunday, I walked past their house, and I saw a new car in the driveway. Brand new, silver, shining in the sun. I rang the doorbell. Vanessa opened it. "Mrs. Martha, without calling? I need to speak to Richard." He appeared, in shorts, flip-flops, holding a beer. "Mom, what a surprise. New car, Richard?" He swallowed hard. "Oh, that? Yeah, we needed it. The other one was having issues." $50,000, Richard. "Where is it?" Vanessa crossed her arms. "Mrs. Martha, that is between you and him. Don't bring me into this. You aren't involved? Isn't the car in your name too?" Richard raised his hand. "Mom, stop. I'm going to pay you. It's just taking longer than I thought. You lied to me." "I didn't lie. It's just delayed. There was no partnership, was there?" Silence. I looked at my son, and I saw a stranger. "You used my apartment as collateral to buy this life you have here. You knew I couldn't afford to lose it, and you did it anyway." Richard took a deep breath. "Mom, you've always been dramatic. It's a loan. I'll pay it." "When? When I can." He raised his voice at me. For the first time in his life, Vanessa smiled. That smile again. "Mrs. Martha, if you are so worried, maybe you shouldn't have lent the money." I left there shaking. Not from fear, from anger, from disappointment, from grieving a son I had lost without even realizing it. But I had the papers. I had the proof. I had everything. The public blow would come later. 2 weeks later, I ran into them at the grocery store. Saturday morning. It was packed, Vanessa pushing the cart, Richard beside her, Mikey in the stroller. They looked like a family from a commercial. I was in line at the butcher counter. They passed by and pretended they didn't see me. They pretended, in the middle of a small market where everyone knows everyone. I followed them. I didn't plan it. I just went. Richard. He turned around. Vanessa too. Her face hardened instantly. "Mom, not here." "Yes, here. You don't answer my calls. You don't reply to messages. You disappeared." Some people started to look. Mrs. Celia from the pharmacy. Mr. Antonio, who lives in the building next door. The cashier. Vanessa let go of the cart. "Mrs. Martha, we are shopping. This can wait." "No, it can't. I've already waited months." Richard tried to pull me by the arm. "Mom, let's talk at home." "Not here." I pulled away. "At your house, you don't let me in. So it's going to be right here. Where is my money?" Vanessa huffed loudly. "On purpose." "Money? You lent it, didn't you?" "Loans take time." 10 months, Vanessa. 10 months and a new car in the driveway." Richard narrowed his eyes. "Mom, you have nothing to do with my financial life. I have everything to do with it when you used my apartment as collateral." Silence. The entire market was listening now. Richard looked around. He saw the neighbors. He saw people stopping to listen. And something in him snapped. He took 2 steps toward me. He looked down at me, coldly, and asked, "What does it feel like to be worth nothing anymore, Mom?" I froze. He continued, "For everyone here to know that you are a mother who doesn't know her place, who keeps running after her son like an abandoned dog." Vanessa had her arms crossed, a little smirk on the corner of her mouth. Mrs. Celia dropped her bag. Mr. Antonio stood there, mouth open. The cashier stopped scanning items. Mikey started crying in the stroller. No one picked him up. Richard kept staring at me, waiting, as if he wanted to see me break right there, in front of everyone. I didn't break. I clutched my fabric bag. I took a deep breath, and I spoke quietly, but everyone heard. You are going to regret this. He laughed. It was a short, mocking laugh. Regret? What? Telling the truth? I turned my back. I walked out of the store. I walked slowly. I didn't run. I didn't cry there. But when I got home, I collapsed. I stayed in bed for 2 days. 2 days without eating right, without sleeping, reliving the scene, the witnesses, his laugh, her smile. On the 3rd day, I got up. I sat on the edge of the bed and cried. I cried everything I had been holding back. I cried for the son I raised, for the man he had become, for the humiliation in front of people who had known me forever. I cried for the Martha who worked 20 years without stopping, for the Martha who sold her mother's house to pay for college, for the Martha who believed that a mother's love was enough. It wasn't. I picked up his father's watch, the one he had thrown in the cardboard box. I stood there holding it, looking at the stopped hands. I thought about so many things, about giving up, about disappearing, about accepting that I had lost my son, and that was it. But then the anger came. Clean anger. Anger that organizes. Anger that doesn't scream, but acts. I got up. I went to the kitchen cupboard. I opened the bottom drawer, the one where I kept old papers, and I started searching. College tuition deposit slips, January 2009, February 2009, every month 5 years in a row, 58 deposits. I had kept every single one. Proof of help for the wedding, $5,000, bank transfer with date and time, receipt for the down payment on the house, $20,000. I helped. It's right there on paper with my signature and his. And the loan contract. $50,000. Promissory note. Promise of payment in 6 months. His signature. Witness. Everything legally sound. I gathered every paper. I laid them on the table, and I started sorting them by date. College, wedding, house, loan. I calculated everything. I grabbed an old notebook, a pen, and started adding it up. Law school, $87,000. Wedding help, $5,000. House down payment, $20,000. Yachter unpaid loan, $50,000. Total, $162,000. Zero, $162,000. That was what I invested in my son. Not counting food, clothes, medicine, school supplies, not counting love, not counting life. I took an old shoebox. I lined it with paper. I put every document inside, neatly organized. I wrote a label, Richard, complete history. I sat down again. I looked at the box, and I made a decision. I was going to collect, not just the money. I was going to collect respect, dignity, justice, but I wasn't going alone. I needed someone who knew how to do this the right way, the legal way. I remembered Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson was a friend of my late husband, a lawyer, a serious, hard-working man. After my husband died, he would stop by once in a while. He'd bring bread, ask if I needed anything. Over time, we drifted apart. Life went on, but I knew where his office was. I picked up the phone, my hand trembling. I dialed. 3 rings. Hello? Mr. Thompson? This is Martha. Martha, George's wife. Short silence. Martha, it's been so long. Is everything okay? Everything is not okay, Mr. Thompson. I need help. Legal help. Go ahead. Not over the phone. Can I come to your office tomorrow? Of course. 9 o'clock? I'll be there. I hung up. I breathed. I went to the bathroom mirror. I looked at myself. My eyes were puffy. My hair was messy. But there was something different now. There was fire. I went back to the table. I opened the box. I checked every paper again. Everything in place. Everything right. I closed the box. I left it on the table. And I slept. For the first time in 3 days, I slept. The next day, I had an ally. I arrived at Mr. Thompson's office at 9 sharp. Old building, 2nd floor. The secretary welcomed me with coffee. He appeared shortly after. Martha, come in. The office was simple. Wooden desk, shelves full of law books, a photo of him with his family on the wall. He pointed to the chair. I sat down. I put the shoebox on the desk. What happened? I told him everything. From Richard's wedding, Vanessa's arrival, the humiliations, the loan, the new car, the grocery store. He didn't interrupt me. He just listened. He wrote a few things down on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he looked at the box. "May I see?" I opened it. I took out every paper. I placed them on the desk. He picked them up one by one, read slowly, checked dates, checked amounts, checked signatures. He stayed silent for about 10 minutes, just reading. Then he looked up. "Martha, you have a case, a strong case." I breathed. He signed a promissory note. "You have witnesses. You have proof of everything, including that you used your property as collateral for the bank loan. Can he take my apartment?" "Not if we act now. You are within the time frame." He grabbed a calculator, started adding. "Here it says 6 months for payment. It's been 10. He is in default. You can charge interest, late fees, and attorney's fees." He wrote the final amount on a piece of paper. He turned to me. $63,000. "That's what he owes you right now, just for the loan. And the rest? The rest? College? Wedding? House?" Mr. Thompson took a deep breath. "Martha, legally, that was a gift. Help from a mother to a son. We can't claim that in court." My chest tightened. "But morally," he continued, "morally, you are right. And we can use that to our advantage." "How?" He stood up, went to the filing cabinet, came back with a folder. "Let me tell you something. Last week I ran into the accountant for the firm where Richard works. We talked. He mentioned that Richard is in deep debt, payday loans, maxed out credit cards, overdraft at the limit." I frowned. "How did he buy a brand new car then?" Exactly the question I asked. Mr. Thompson opened the folder. There were some printed papers, statements, documents. I asked a favor of a contact of mine. It's not entirely orthodox, but it's not a crime either. We took a discreet look at his financial situation. He pointed to a statement. The money for the car came from a joint account, his and Vanessa's, but his salary doesn't cover that. So where did it come from? He turned the page. "From her mother's account, a transfer of $40,000, 2 days after your loan was due." My eyes went wide. "They used the money that was meant to pay me back, to buy a car." "More than that, Martha. They planned it. Vanessa financed the car and left you waiting." He pulled out another sheet. "And there is more. You know that partnership in the law firm? It doesn't exist. It never existed. Richard is still an employee, fixed salary. He lied. He lied. And he used your assets to sustain a lifestyle he doesn't have." Mr. Thompson gathered the papers. "Martha, we can do 3 things. First, a collection lawsuit, $63,000 with asset seizure if he doesn't pay. Second, expose this publicly, the right way. Third, protect you, ensure your apartment isn't at risk." "And how do we do that?" He took a blank piece of paper, started writing. "First, we serve him notice, a formal demand letter. Give him 10 days to pay. If he doesn't pay, we file the suit. The judge orders a freeze on accounts, garnishment of assets. The car, for example. The car is in Vanessa's name. But it was bought with money that should have been yours. We prove the connection. Besides, he signed a promissory note. He is the debtor. The spouse is liable too. And the public exposure?" Mr. Thompson smiled slightly. "You are going to their house, with the evidence, with a witness. I'm going with you, and you are going to put everything on the table, in front of whoever he wants. Family, friends, neighbors. We do a confrontation, not aggressive, but firm. He will deny it. He can't deny a signed paper. And when he tries, you show the rest. College, wedding, house, $162,000 invested. He will have to face that, in front of everyone." I stayed quiet. Mr. Thompson leaned forward. "Martha, you don't deserve this. You are not a burden. You are not a problem. You are a mother, and you have the right to demand respect." I felt my eyes filling with tears. "I want to do this. Then let's do it. The right way." He picked up a planner. "I'll prepare the notice today. Have it delivered tomorrow. 10 days later, if he doesn't pay, we go there. You, me, and this proof." I shook his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Martha, for trusting me." I left the office with the box of evidence under my arm. This time, I wasn't alone. The day arrived. You know that day when you wake up feeling different, even without knowing exactly why? I got out of bed like that. I wasn't the same Martha who had left the grocery store crying. I got up slowly, sat on the edge of the bed, and stayed silent for a few minutes, staring at the floor. There was no more room for self-pity. There was only one thing: decision. I went to the closet. I opened the doors, pushed the hangers aside. There were floral dresses, old sewing clothes, Sunday church clothes. I didn't want any of that. I grabbed a pair of dark slacks, a simple blouse, no pattern, a discreet blazer. Clothes for someone who isn't going to ask for a favor, someone who is going to resolve things. In the bathroom, I tied my hair back. I didn't try to look pretty. I wanted to look firm. I put on a light lipstick, washed my face, looked deep into my own eyes in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, I didn't just see a tired old lady. I saw someone who had finally understood her own value. I went to the kitchen table. The shoebox was there, just the way I had left it. I opened it calmly. I picked up the papers, one by one. I checked everything again, for the third, fourth time. College receipts, transfer confirmations, the loan contract, the copy of the demand letter Mr. Thompson had sent. I put each item inside a plastic sleeve. Then I organized everything into a black binder I had kept for years. I closed the binder. I ran my hand over it. My history was in there, in numbers, dates, signatures. The phone rang. It was Mr. Thompson. "Martha, are you ready?" "I'm ready. I'll pick you up in 20 minutes and we'll go together." I hung up. I went to the kitchen. Boiled water, made strong coffee. I drank it slowly. I couldn't eat anything. My stomach was in knots, but my head was clear. I took Richard's father's watch and put it on my wrist. The hands were still stopped, but I wanted it with me. When the intercom buzzed, I already had my fabric bag on my shoulder and the black binder in my hand. "Martha, it's Thompson." I walked down the stairs slowly. When I got out to the street, I saw his car parked in front of the building. He got out, opened the door for me. "Good morning." "Good morning. Are you nervous?" "I am, but I'm standing." He smiled slightly. "That's how it has to be." We got in the car. On the way, he explained again calmly. "Martha, today isn't a day to fight. It's a day to demonstrate, to leave him with no way out. You aren't going to scream. You aren't going to curse. You are going to lay out the facts. And if he tries to humiliate you again, let him talk. The more he talks, the worse he looks. Will I be able to do it? You will. You endured much worse alone. Today, you aren't alone." I looked out the window. The streets I knew so well seemed different. Everything had a weight. Every corner reminded me of something with Richard, the school where he studied, the bakery where we bought bread on Sundays, the bus stop where I waited coming back from sewing jobs. Now, it was all the setting of a different story. When the car turned the corner of his street, my heart raced. I took a deep breath. I gripped the binder tighter. "Martha, remember one thing. You aren't going there to ask him to be your son again. You are going to collect what is yours and put a final period on this cycle of humiliation." I nodded. He parked a few yards from the house. We got out. The white gate, the garage, the silver car out front. Everything the same as the day of the confrontation at the grocery store. But now, I didn't have grocery bags in my hand. I had proof. "Shall we?" he asked. "Let's go." I walked to the gate. Every step felt heavy, but I didn't stop. I rang the doorbell. Once, twice. It was Vanessa's voice I heard first, from inside. "Coming." She opened the gate with a curious look. When she saw me, her expression shut down instantly. When she saw Mr. Thompson by my side, it changed again. She got serious. "What is going on?" "I came to speak with Richard," I said. My voice was steady. "And I didn't come alone." She looked Mr. Thompson up and down. "And who is this?" "Mrs. Martha's attorney." For a second, her smile vanished completely. She opened the gate wider, awkward. "Come in." I walked in. The smell of the house, the floors, the tidy living room. Everything the same, except me. I wasn't the same woman who left there shaking. I knew exactly what I had come to do. The black binder was in my hand. And this time, it wasn't him who was going to ask what it felt like to be worth nothing. I was the one who was going to show how much I was worth, and how much he owed. Richard was in the living room, sitting on the sofa, scrolling on his phone. The TV was on, volume low. When he looked up and saw me there, with Mr. Thompson beside me and the binder in my hand, his face changed instantly. First surprise, then impatience. Mom, this again? Vanessa closed the gate and came up behind us, walking fast. I told you she wasn't going to let it go, she muttered, low, but I heard it. I stopped in the middle of the room. I didn't sit. Mr. Thompson didn't either. He stood a little behind me, like someone covering my back, but making it clear that I was the one in charge. Richard, today I didn't come to talk. I came to resolve this. He laughed, that short laugh I already knew. Resolve what, Mom? I opened the binder calmly. I took out the first sheet. I placed it on the coffee table. Law school, 5 years. Here are all the receipts for the deposits I made, month by month. The law degree you wanted so much. Vanessa crossed her arms. Oh, great. Now she's going to throw it in our faces. I continued as if she hadn't spoken. Everything I gave you for your education, Richard, I never asked for back. I never held it over your head. But today, this goes on the moral tab. I took out another stack of papers, placed it next to the first. Help for the wedding, $5,000. It's here, transfer, date, bank. I took one more. Down payment for the house, $20,000. Your signature, mine. Exact date. He started looking at the papers, uncomfortable. Mom, that's the past. You always wanted to help me. I didn't force you to do anything. I know, and I'm not suing you for this. I'm reminding you of who I was for you, so no one here can pretend they forgot. I took a deep breath. I grabbed the thickest contract, placed it in the center of the table. And here, Richard, is the only money I am officially collecting. $50,000. Loan with a 6-month term. Promissory note. Your signature. Witness. Copy of the bank contract, showing my apartment was the collateral. Mr. Thompson took a step forward, pointed to the paper. This document here, Richard, is not a souvenir. It's not motherly affection. It is a legally binding agreement. This means that if you don't pay, the court can order a freeze on your accounts, seizure of assets, including the car. Vanessa jumped. What is this story about seizing the car? Car bought, he continued, pulling another paper from his file, with money that should have been used to pay off this debt. Transfer from your mother's account, Vanessa, to your joint account with Richard. 2 days after the loan was due, we can prove it. She looked at Richard, irritated. You told them that? Richard went pale. I didn't tell them anything. How do you guys know this? Mr. Thompson kept his cool. How we obtained the information is irrelevant here, Richard. What matters is that there is a paper trail. And that trail shows you deceived your mother, used her property as collateral, didn't pay what you owed, and still maintained a lifestyle above your means. He looked at me, not knowing whether to be angry at me or Thompson. Mom, are you really doing this? Bringing a lawyer to my house to threaten me? It's not a threat, I replied. It's a consequence. Vanessa stepped forward. You are making a scene over money, as if you haven't lived off of Richard your whole life. I took a deep breath. I gripped my bag tighter. Lived off of Richard? I looked at him. Is that what you told her, Richard? That I lived off of you? He looked away. I just said I help you sometimes. Help? I pointed to the papers. $162,000, Richard. That is what is on this table, adding up college, wedding, house, and loan, not counting the rest. And you had the nerve to ask me, in front of a crowded grocery store, what it felt like to be worth nothing. The silence grew heavy. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Vanessa jumped. Who is it now? She went to the gate, grumbling. She opened it. It was her mother, 2 aunts, and her brother. They walked in talking loudly, carrying bags. Look, I'm here. I brought sodas. What's going on? Vanessa's mother stopped when she saw the scene. Me standing there, Thompson, the papers on the table, Richard looking like he'd been caught. Oh, family meeting and nobody told me? Vanessa was quick. Mom, Richard's mother decided to come here to demand money, bring a lawyer, cause drama. Her mother looked me up and down. Today of all days, Martha? Mr. Thompson took a deep breath. It's great that the family is here. Everything becomes more transparent. He introduced himself. Then he pointed to the contract. Your son-in-law, Mrs. Sonia, used his mother's apartment as collateral for a $50,000 loan. He didn't pay. He is in default. And the money that should have been used to pay off this debt went into your daughter's account, and from there went to buy a new car. We have documents. Vanessa's brother whistled low. Seriously, Richard, He turned red. This is my problem, not her family's. It's the problem of everyone living under this roof, Thompson replied. Because when the law knocks on the door, it won't choose sides. I didn't take my eyes off my son. Richard, look at me. It took a moment, but he looked. I am giving you a chance to resolve this here, in this room, behind closed doors. You humiliated me in public. Today I could do the same to you. I could go to your firm. I could post it on the internet. I could tell everyone. I won't do that. I am still your mother. But I won't be silent anymore. He swallowed hard. What do you want? I want you to sign an agreement. You will acknowledge again that you owe me this money. You will accept the conditions Mr. Thompson sets. You will commit to paying in installments with a defined deadline. You will authorize in writing that if you default, the car will be used to pay off part of the debt. And you will look me in the face and admit you lied. Vanessa exploded. You aren't signing anything, Richard. That's what she wants. To see you in debt, lose everything, destroy our life. The one who destroyed his own life was him, I said calmly, when he chose debt and lies over character. Vanessa's mother crossed her arms. Richard, think carefully. This is serious. He looked from one to the other, cornered. The man who once swore he would take care of me when I got old was now there, trapped by his own choices. Mr. Thompson placed a blank paper on the table. I brought the settlement template. You just need to fill in the amounts and sign. If you refuse, Richard, I file the lawsuit tomorrow morning. And then there is no discussion. It's a judge, frozen assets, and a sheriff. This is abuse, he murmured. Abuse is what you did, I replied. Mikey appeared in the hallway door, rubbing his eyes, holding a toy car. He looked at the living room, not understanding anything. Daddy? Richard looked at his son. His expression changed for a second. That second where, maybe, he saw himself in my place. Him, 30 years from now, being collected on by a son he helped raise. Mikey, go back to your room, Vanessa ordered. He stood still. Daddy, are you fighting with Grandma? The room got even quieter. I took a deep breath. No, Mikey. Grandma isn't fighting with your daddy. Grandma is just reminding him to keep his word. Richard lowered his head. He picked up the pen Thompson had placed on the table. He hesitated a few seconds holding it. His hand was trembling. How many installments? Mr. Thompson replied, practical. 24, with low interest. It's heavy, but possible. You'll have to cut expenses, probably sell this car, but it's this or the court decides for you. Vanessa stepped forward. You aren't selling my car, Richard. He looked at her, and for the first time, he seemed irritated with her, not me. Our car, Vanessa, and it was bought with my mother's money. She backed off a little. He sighed. He signed the paper, once, twice, 3 signatures, where Thompson pointed. When he finished, he pushed the paper toward me, without looking at me. Done. Happy now? I took the paper. I folded it slowly. I put it in the binder. No, I'm not happy. This isn't happiness. This is justice. Happiness is something else. Mr. Thompson took a copy of the agreement and put it in his briefcase. From now on, Richard, this has legal force. If you miss a single payment, the lawsuit begins. Without further notice. He nodded, dryly. Fine. I looked up at him for the last time that day. Remember that day at the grocery store? When you asked what it felt like to be worth nothing? Today, you have your answer. It isn't when we have little money. It isn't when we live in a simple place. It's when we kick the person who lifted us up our whole life, when we spit on the hand that held ours. From today on, I don't accept that from you anymore. Mikey was still at the door listening. Grandma, are you leaving? I'm going, my sweetie. He came toward me. He hugged my legs. Vanessa tried to call him, but he didn't let go right away. I bent down, looked him in the eyes. Take care of your heart, Mikey. Grow up right. Respect your mom. Respect your dad. And never talk to anyone the way your dad spoke to me that day at the store. Okay? He nodded, not understanding everything, but feeling it. I stood up, grabbed my bag, my binder. Mr. Thompson made room for me to pass. Nobody said stay. Nobody said sorry. Not in that moment. Just silence and grim faces. When I got to the door, I stopped. I didn't turn all the way around, just turned my face a little. I walked in here today as your mother, Richard. I'm walking out as someone who respects herself. If one day you want to talk to me like a man, not like a spoiled child, you know where to find me. But come with your head down and a clean heart. I opened the gate. The sun hit my face. I took a deep breath. I walked out feeling light. I walked out of that house with the black binder under my arm and Mr. Thompson by my side. In the car, he looked at me and said just one sentence. You did what you had to do, Martha. Now it's just a matter of time. I nodded. I didn't talk much on the way back. My head was spinning, but it was a different kind of spin. Not confusion. Clarity. The first few days were quiet. Richard didn't call. Vanessa didn't either. I didn't expect them to call, but 2 weeks later, the first installment hit my account. Exact amount the agreement stated. No delay, no excuses, just the money dropping in. I heard from neighbors that Vanessa had left the house for a few days. They fought bad, people said. The silver car disappeared from the driveway. Sold, probably. Richard started taking the bus to work. No luxury, no posing. Her mother called me once, voice low, embarrassed. Martha, you ruined their lives. I replied simply, I didn't ruin anything. They chose the path. She hung up without another word. At his job, things changed too. He was a lawyer at a mid-sized firm, but after that, I heard his boss called him into the office. Asked about debts, about a tanked credit score. They didn't fire him, but they cut his bonuses. His reputation was scratched, colleagues whispering, family demanding. How do you do that to your mother? The guilt hit him, I know, because a month later, he sent a text. Short. Sorry, Mom, I'm paying everything. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. The installments kept coming. Vanessa? She exposed her hand to everyone. Her family found out about her mother's money going to the car, about the way they used my loan. She lost her status as queen of the house. She heard from her own mother, you encouraged all of this. They say they were sleeping in separate rooms, separation in the air, but nobody died, nobody disappeared. It's real life, consequences, justice that hurts but heals. I didn't celebrate. I didn't dance for joy. Justice doesn't bring euphoria. It brings peace. Peace of knowing I didn't swallow any more humiliation. That my name is clear, that my apartment is safe. With the payments coming in, I started planning. I didn't want to stay in the same place, seeing the same streets, passing by the same grocery store. I rented a small townhouse in a nearby town, 50 minutes away by car. Cheap, but with a yard, with a vegetable garden, with sun all day long. I moved in 2 months. I took only the essentials, the sewing machine, my husband's watch, my fabric bag. I left the rest behind. Here, I started slow. I found a local church on the corner. They have a sewing group. I teach the younger ones how to hem, mend, make simple dresses. They pay me little, but they pay. And they call me Aunt Martha. There is respect in their eyes. I wake up at 6. I have coffee with toast I make myself. I walk in the park nearby. 3 times a week. I met Mrs. Louise, a widow like me. We talk on the bench, share pie recipes. There's Mr. John, who takes care of the square's garden. He gives me tomatoes from his patch. Self-esteem. I rebuilt it in the little things. On the day I made an entire dress by myself and the client came back to thank me. On the day I looked in the mirror and liked what I saw. On the day I slept without nightmares for the first time in years. Mikey. Mikey. There was a video call. Richard found the courage to call, 3 months after the confrontation. He put the boy on the screen. Talk to Grandma, son. He smiled big. Grandma, when are you coming? I replied softly. Soon, my love. But Grandma has a new house now. I didn't promise a date. I set boundaries. Richard can see his son whenever he wants, but with me, it's different. He calls once in a while, asks if I'm okay. I reply short. I'm great. Keep paying, and everything is fine here. He knows there is no going back to how it was, and that's fine. Today, my routine is mine. I wake up early because I want to. I sew because I like it. I walk because it does me good. Friends because I choose them. Nobody measures me. Nobody calls me a burden. Nobody asks me what it feels like to be worth nothing, because I know what I'm worth, and I live that every day. I started from 0, but with dignity. And that is worth more than any money that has ever passed through my hands. If you made it this far, it's because this story touched you in some way. Love is not humiliation. Respect is the minimum we deserve. No one has to beg to be seen. Starting over has no age limit. Dignity isn't asked for. It is lived. Comment below what city you are listening from, and stay with me for the next videos that will appear on the screen. Someone might need to hear this today.